I first want to give a thanks to Bering Optics. Boris is the contact that I have over there, and he's been very helpful. And I own the Hogster-R scope, which is the dedicated rifle scope. And I had been discussing with him, I was kind of torn whether I wanted a clip-on setup or a rifle scope setup, so Boris was nice enough to let me test and evaluate this system. So these are his parts that'll go back to him after this test and evaluation is done. So thank you, Bering Optics, thank you, Boris, for the opportunity. Here's a Hogster-C model, the C representing a clip-on thermal imaging device. We're going to use it on a 6.5 Grendel 20-inch barrel. We've got some components to review here at the tabletop before we get out in the field or at the range, where it's usually loud and environmental's going on, so I'm going to try to do this from the comfort of the dining room here. So here's some features for the Hogster-C. It's exceptionally lightweight, compact, and versatile. It's going to be mounted in front of a daytime scope using a clip-on mounting system. It also uses germanium optics, vanadium oxide uncooled thermal core, and it's available directly from Bering Optics or other vendors who sell the product. It's a 384 by 288 Vox thermal imaging sensor. It comes included with a detachable eyepiece with a rubber eye guard that's for using it in scanning mode. A one size detachable clip-on connector, and that'll be based on the front objective size of your daytime scope. It has a 42mm front objective lens, and it's 17 micron with a thermal sensitivity of less than 50 millikelvins. The daytime optic, what I do know is it is a 1 in 7 times first focal plane optic. Alright, let's shine a little better light on here. So what Boris was explaining is the robust build of this particular daytime optic. A couple different characteristics to point out here. The actual wall thickness of the scope itself, it's very thick. Usually these are thinned down to save weight in this style of daytime optic, but he decided to spec this one out with a very thick wall, and the explanation he gave was you want as much meat as possible on the front end to support the nearly 1 pound of weight that will be hanging off of this unsupported. So that's the reason behind the build quality and the heft of this particular daytime optic. Also, the scope mount is very, very robust as well, and obviously with the pound hanging off the front, the scope weight itself, you want everything to be solid, not be apt to move or to bend or warp. So very impressed with the quality of the components, and I'm sure when we get on the range we're going to see consistent accuracy. Alright, let's discuss a little bit of the configuration or the versatility of the Hogster-C. Again, it's a clip-on version, so the first order of business will be to zero the daytime optic just as you would any daytime scope. You make your adjustments to the rear diopter for clarity, and then you establish your zero at 100 yards. After we have a good solid zero, repetitive and consistent, then we will configure the Hogster-C to clip-on mode. So you have the unit itself has a front lens cap protector there. There's your germanium lens, and it's got the body, battery compartment, And it has the ability to attach a rail if you wanted to mount it in front of like a prismatic scope or something of that variety. You would mount this on the front rail in front of that, since you can't attach it on a clip-on. In the rear here, you have a sensitive part that you'll want to protect. It's the near-eye display in there, and it appears to have a sort of a sacrificial shield over it, piece of glass or something. Right there you can see the glare coming off that piece there, but nonetheless you want to keep dust and grime out of that. You can kind of get an idea of how small that near-eye display is. When I power it up, you'll see the image come up there. It's got a threaded backside that is meant to adapt to a couple of different type of connector rings, right? So let's talk about the clip-on mode first. So what I have in my hand here would be the detachable clip-on connector piece. Alright, so it's going to be threaded. Oh, not a little too far. It's going to be keyed and threaded. So when I mean keyed, you have some half circular points here, and then a full circular point here with a magnet inset. Okay, you see the magnet there? Okay, and that is meant to only go in one orientation to the back of the Hogster-C. So these are half circles at the 3, 6, and 9 position and dead top center. 12 o'clock position is a full circular to adapt to this. So essentially you get this detachable eyepiece connector. Give it a slight push inward. Start screwing the clip-on connector lock ring, right? So we don't have to get too crazy with it, just a nice little firm touch there. Alright, so we have a locking ring here that is meant to secure the throw lever adapter. These throw lever adapters, they'll look different dependent upon the size of your front objective of your daytime optic. It has a fine thread on this. See if I can show you that inner shelf. So that black part right there, let me get my pointer. This black part right here is a shelf to engage the front end of the daytime optic. So we will actually push that until it stops here to give a nice solid fit. So thread this on, and I'll just turn it until it bottoms out. Sorry for the sound. Okay, right there it bottoms out. So I'll go ahead and back it up a quarter turn, and then I'll come in here with the lock ring. This throw lever adapter is a solid piece of material. I don't know the metal alloy or anything of that nature, other than this is a steel piece here with an aluminum style throw lever, and when you engage it, you'll see that the gap decreases. So that is going to essentially cinch down onto the front housing, or the front objective, the scope housing, and that's how it'll secure, right? So the theory is that sound is a stop there, a hard stop, and then you throw this and lock it down. It does have an adjustment nut right here to increase or lessen the amount of tension that this throw lever provides. You just want a reasonable amount of force. It doesn't have to be something that's going to bend or warp. Do be advised that there is a lock nut here. So there's your adjustment, and then once you've adjusted it to where you want it, you'll lock that in with that there. Alright, here's an example of a representative image that you get through the back of the day optic looking to the Hogster screen. Now we just did a rough test fit of the connector, adapter, and the unit itself. That's why it's canted. So I will want to set all of this up to be as level as possible before hitting the range, and then I'll make an index mark with some erasable ink on the day optic housing and the center of that split. That way I have an idea when I'm in the field and I take the Hogster off to use it as a scanner. I can just line it up without having to go through the whole realignment process out in the field. Alright, here's an observation I have in trying to get this lined up. So let's say the center line of the scope tracks with my pointer here. The adapter itself is off to the right. Then the adapter itself is not centered with the power calibration and menu button. So there's actually 3 points of alignment here. And I was incorrect to think that just lining up the gap of this with the center of this turret would be even, because it's not aligned here. So what I'll do is I will lock this in with this fairly close to the center line, and then I'll have to mess with the lock ring to center this up, and we'll do that now. Alright, so I think I got this not only straight but tight. So the center of the turret here to the gap, and then following that through to the center line of the clip-on itself. So now as you come to the back of the scope, instead of that canted view that we started with, we're lined up. This is at 1x magnification on the daytime optic. Trying to hold this still. As you progress through the zoom, you'll start to lose the outer picture of the Hogster. Increase the size of the reticle, and right there is about 4.5 times zoom. But in terms of functionality, that is what we're dealing with, is a far away view at 1x. Not really optimal for precision shooting. More so for field of view though, so if you want to maximize your field of view, you should be scanning with your rifle on 1x, and then once you're clear and your surroundings are clear and you're ready to get into a more precise shot, you'll increase the zoom of the optic. And this reticle and this glass on the scope is exceptional. It's got an illuminated reticle here. So I'm sure that will assist greatly. And that is maxed out at 7x there. But everything is in clear, crisp focus. There is a center dot that is illuminated. Alright, so that's a rough idea there of a basic configuration of the Hogster-C in clip-on mode. What I mean by basic is you're not going to have any video recording function, and you're going to be using the onboard battery system of the Hogster. So it's the minimalist configuration of simply adapting the Hogster-C to a daytime optic that you've been using during the daytime hours, and when night falls you put your clip-on on and you can continue the hunt without any change or effect to the point of impact of your daytime optic. We'll verify all of that at the range, and then next we'll talk about the two other configurations you can choose to run. Alright, so another configuration opportunity that you have running a Hogster-C model, or the R model as well, so either Hogster thermal scope from Bering Optics, you can utilize the side USB-C port. Alright, so there I have a 90-degree bend, which is the way that it's fitted and configured, and it goes into the side USB-C port. And then you do a little bit of wire management, route that in such a way that you won't lose the connection in the field. And then on the side, we've paired this up with a TNVC thermal rechargeable battery pack. It comes, the Anchor battery is actually inside of a protective housing, and the protective housing has a built-in Picatinny rail adapter, so it makes it very, very stable, and you're able to mount that in a multitude of ways. It has a standard USB connector here in the front, also has a status LED indicator. You push this and it gives you a readout on the side of your battery. So this type of configuration, you can extend your use of the Hogster up to 13 hours, which is significant. You can go all night, not have to burn through a set of batteries or make any battery changes. So it's a very good option if you're running a Hogster to use an external battery pack. One more extra piece of equipment to carry along, but well worth it in my opinion. If you wanted just to run the external battery pack, the thermal rechargeable battery pack, you can get away with a cable like this. Talk to your vendor, talk to Bering Optics about the 90-degree USB-C to USB. It's I think that's less than a foot. If you want to record your hunts, you're going to be needing an external DVR to mate to the USB-C connection of the Hogster, either the R or C model. Alright, so the cabling that I received with my Hogster-R, it had a USB-C connector that splits off into a standard USB connection to go to a battery pack, or a RCA connection, which I have here. From the RCA connection, you then make your connection into the external DVR. So right quick here, I'll wire this up, if you will, to the gun and show you what the final configuration looks like. Alright, we're back. We've got the external DVR secured via zip tie to the top of the tactical brass recovery brass catcher. The brass catcher itself is extremely well made, solid. The weight of the recorder is not going to cause that to come down. It takes a force much greater than the weight of the external DVR. So while we're in stowage, that'll come down to a slimmer profile, won't be sticking out. We've got the associated wires. So this is the actual connection that ultimately works its way over to the USB-C connector. So the bundle of RCAs, they provide 4 or 5 feet of cable for these connectors, and you really don't need that much, but you'd have to get into specialty cables in order to get this to be more streamlined. We use zip ties along this quad rail to secure those. Coming to the other side on the battery pack end, we have that USB connection. So that was the split from the RCA. Off the USB-C, it's the split between RCA for video and USB for external power. So the battery pack, we come off out of the battery pack, and we avoid the gas block in the barrel due to heat. You don't want to melt your wires. So we secure it right away to the quad rail, and then we used this side of the rail to pretty much take up the slack of the battery end of the Y. So yeah, you want to record video. It adds a little bit of complication to the situation, but that's what it takes to make it happen. Now the Hogster-C, being that it is in front of your daytime optic that has the reticle, the crosshairs, the image you get from the Hogster-C on recording is going to be just a straight thermal image of the scene that you're looking at. So there will be no crosshairs to indicate or to assist in a recall where your shot was placed or where you were aiming or anything of that nature. So it's simply just a straight scanner style thermal image that you get. If you want to record, if you want to record the reticle, then you have to get creative on the back end back here and find some device or some way, some means to record looking through the daytime optic to the back of the Hogster, which is going to include the reticle if you want that in your recording. This is about as much stuff as I want working against me to be successful in recording in the field, so we'll roll with this, and this is how you'll get video for the remainder of the range sessions, the hunts, and the testing and evaluation. Also, I added some, it's like athletic trainer's tape that you get from, I just pick it up from Ace Hardware. It's not super tacky, but it's tacky enough to stick to itself, and so I cover all those wires so I don't get them hung up in branches or on other equipment I have in the back of the truck as we're in and out. It just makes it smoother and a little easier to grip actually without those zip ties digging into you or you accidentally creasing a wire trying to grip the rifle. So that's just another technique I use to keep the wires in managed and keep a secure grip on the firearm. Alright, so you've got the Hogster in clip-on mode. The throw lever is in the back or tight position. Everything is secure, but you want to use it as a handheld scanner. Take the throw lever, put it to the forward position, slide the unit off. All you have to do now that you have this all lined up and set is detach it from this lock ring position. So that will go. So again, all of my index marks are remaining still. Do my best not to disturb those. Off comes the throw lever and connector ring. And the Hogster-C comes with a detachable eyepiece. The magnification of that detachable eyepiece is rather important. So I have batteries because the battery pack, the TNVC thermal rechargeable battery pack, is staying on the gun. It's remaining on the gun. I've got batteries in the Hogster-C. I'll go ahead and turn this on so you can appreciate the size of the actual near-eye display. I mean, that is literally less than the size of a dime, and it's, you can actually see the image moving. So the magnification of this eyepiece is critical, and it's a well-designed system from Bering Optics. You'll notice no magnet and no key, no four-way key, so this just simply might want to put some silicone or some sort of lubricant on that so you're not making that noise in the field. And then boom, it has a hard stop there. So with finger pressure only, you don't need tools or a wrench or anything. You are still able to record video if you want, whether you have two recorders or what have you. You can also use an extendable anchor battery pack, maybe not something rifle mountable, but maybe you want to carry a small one in your pocket. So the versatility of the video recording as well as the external battery pack travels with the Hogster no matter which mode you're using it in. So right now this is a Hogster-C in handheld scanner mode. It does have zoom capability when in scanner mode. So through the menu you can adjust the zoom. So that's our tabletop overview. I'm excited to give this a run this weekend, and hopefully we can bump into lots of animals and lots of scenery that brings out the capabilities and translates the utility of the Hogster-C for possible consumers such as myself and you. Hope you enjoyed this video and hope it was helpful. From Bering Optics. Right now we have the rifle outfitted with simply a daytime optic, and we'll try to get some video through the scope. So there's your representative video at the 1x magnification. Very clear glass. Excellent light transmission. Two times. 3 times. 4 times. 6 times. 7 times zoom. We'll get some footage later with the clip on. This is at 1x magnification on the day optic. Two times. I'm going to mess with the focus on the Hogster. The feeder was 97 yards. 2 to 3 times seems to be a real good sweet spot, which is where we're at right now.